Today we are back at my brother's shop, and you guys would recall the gas direct injection Ford that we did recently that had 3 stuck open fuel injectors, and the car is back with a misfire. My brother told me briefly what he did. The customer came back, it was an intermittent miss when he would drive the car. Only under load he could feel a little bit of a shakiness, classic secondary ignition type misfire. And he told the customer what he felt, and apparently this customer has family that works for AutoZone, and they replaced all the coils and all the plugs, and it came back basically, I don't know if they towed it, but now it has a 2-cylinder misfire. Cylinders 2 and 3 are constantly misfiring, and we don't have the same symptoms. You can smell raw fuel, but it's, we think, because of the misfire. And what my brother said he did was the relative compression test with the scan tool. He also did an injector balance test with the scan tool. We're gonna show you guys both of those, and both of them passed. His fuel trim numbers were positive, like positive 14%. All of this, in our opinion, my brother and I, as we talked, matching maybe a secondary ignition or an ignition problem, not a fuel problem like before. But in any case, it's back with a misfire, and that's what we're about to do. So let's get to it. Danner is not mic'd up today because Caleb, part of his job is to make sure that he grabs the mic off of Danner when we're done, and he forgot last time, and so the mic is dead. So Danner's not mic'd up today.
What are we hurrying?
I just wanted him to turn the camera back on. It's a new camera. Doesn't feel like...
Looks like you're just taking a picture of me. I just need to...
Look how... You have to stand closer to me because you're not mic'd up.
Oh.
I told them briefly what the car was doing. It had an intermittent miss, and then they replaced the coils, and now it has a 2-cylinder constant miss.
Yes.
You did a relative compression, injector balance test. Those all passed. Positive fuel trim numbers.
Yes.
Was it towed in?
I don't
Or
know.
they drove it in?
You can drive it, kind of.
Okay.
You know, but
It's bad. It's missing all the time.
bad.
Okay.
And, like, if I try to shut 1 or 4 injector off, it kills the car.
Right.
If I shut off 2 or 3, it doesn't make a difference.
Right, right. And you said fuel trims are positive.
Positive 14 on the long term and like 3 on the short term.
And that cranking, the injector balance test, which I wasn't aware was available, that's cool, on GDIs. It was a cranking injector balance test?
Yeah.
So you just enter the mode and it does it all for you. It'll keep it from...
It'll crank for 10 or 15 seconds.
And does all 4 in that period of time?
Yep.
That's sweet.
And then it says start the vehicle before you try it again.
Okay.
You know, so it's basing it off of the fuel rail pressure, you know, depending on how far it's dropping.
And it passed that test?
Yeah, it was like 140 was nominal, and I was like 137 or 138 to 141 range between all of them.
And then you also said that the injector or the rail pressure held on shutdown.
Shutdown.
So unlike what we had previously, okay.
Yeah, and that's all I know at the moment. So
but it was like almost like a fish bite type, what they call fish bite. I like that description.
It was a hard,
when you drove it, it was kind of a fish bite type.
Okay. One hit, you know, and I'm like.
But since they changed the coils.
Well, see, I think it got worse before they changed the coils.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
I'm hesitant on all of it.
All right.
You know,
well, that's why we're here. We're back. It's a comeback.
Yeah.
It's a comeback.
It's been 3 months.
Okay. What scanner do we want to use? Do we want to show everybody the new Topdon we got?
Try it.
Want to try it?
The one that we never produced it, but I have a folder in the computer called the worst unboxing.
The worst unboxing video ever.
It was like a 2-hour unboxing video because we couldn't figure it out.
All right, so this Topdon scan tool that we got, I believe it is the Phoenix. Yeah, this is the Phoenix, and we did this unboxing video for it, and Caleb and I agreed it's like the worst unboxing ever. We'll produce that, let you guys see it. But the nice thing about this tool is it is a bidirectional scan tool with enhanced capabilities that is less than $1,000. And that's what I've been looking for you guys for a long time. A lot of you do-it-yourselfers, and a lot of you guys maybe just getting into the game. It is a great first scan tool. I think it lists for around $800. And the nice thing about this, I'm working directly with Topdon, and what they did is they are offering I think it was a 10% on the cost of the tool. So 10% of 800, that's $80. If you purchase it using the promo code Danner, then $80 of that 800, instead of me getting any affiliate revenue, that's going to St. Jude's Research Hospital. And I thought, man, that's freaking phenomenal. Not only can I show you guys a tool that I'm excited about because of the cost and what it can do, but also to help others in the process, right? That's pretty awesome. You guys will see in our unboxing video where
let's just put clips.
We debated what to do. Now we should do the
we should not produce it and just
you don't
put
think?
clips in this because that video is horrible.
Okay. Well, this was one that we were like, what is this? So there's an OBD like adapter port down inside of here. And we thought for sure a cable went there, and it didn't. That just holds the Bluetooth piece, and we broke the clip inside. This would go into the tool. Nope. This is stupid.
You can't figure out how to use it.
No, everything's wrong. I mean, I feel like an idiot. Like, what the hell?
So we figured it out. I looked at the box and realized that that's there, so that's just storage.
Yeah, and the problem with the storage of this is I can't plug it in. I can't plug it in. And we broke the little freaking clip on the inside.
I broke it.
I'm just feeling grateful today. Grateful for my community, grateful for you guys who enable us to do this. And I'm thankful that I get to do it with my son and with my brother. And it just really doesn't get any better. And I'm reminded of the verse that I quoted in Caleb's worship video that I uploaded today, Romans 8:28, and that's all things work together for good to those who love God, to those who are the called according to his purpose. And that is a believer's promise. That is one that says all things. It doesn't say some things. And if you guys have a moment, read my pinned comment about a little bit about my story, from the abuse of my stepfather to losing my father, all of that tied together, including my mom having cancer now, that all things work together for good, not just some things. And I'm just thankful that I get to walk this path with my son alongside of me, and I have you guys to thank for that. All right, enough preaching. I'm not going to do a full system scan. Just going to my PCM. A misfire 2 and 3, random misfires, just what Danner said. Let's do our actuation test is what I just picked. One of the things that we found when we used this last time that I really liked was the data. As you're scrolling the data in a data list, say you have 60 data parameters and there's only 4 or 5 on the screen, it still records the other data PIDs, which the Autel does not. The Snap-on does, which is primarily why we use the Snap-on for our videos, is because of data comparisons. There really hasn't been a better scan tool for us, but this does that. So that's kind of cool. All right, let's see what we can do here. There's our injector test that Danner was talking about. I don't see the injector balance. Special functions. Nice. Power balance, relative compression. Let's do the relative compression one first. Fully depress the accelerator pedal to the floor and hold. Crank the engine for 10 seconds or until test is complete. Yeah, that's pretty cool. You could hear it. It sounded good. It was even. Nice feature. Relative compression on the scan tool, you see we're 0%. Cylinder 2 showing 1%. Yeah, all normal. That's pretty cool. Relative compression. The power balance, that's going to be misfire stuff. I don't see the injector balance one that Danner was talking about. I don't know. Let's see what the misfire test does. That's a bad miss. I feel it right off the bat.
It's pretty heavy.
The power balance one, it's real bad, like real bad. Yeah, you can see cylinders 2 and 3. That's pretty cool. I mean, you can clearly see it. Up here, up top, cylinder 1 and 4, and cylinder 2 and 3 are low consistently. I'm disappointed that I'm not seeing that particular test. Fuel volume control valve, percentage, fuel rail pressure desired, injector disable tests. I'm not seeing it. Let's go to our data. So fuel rail pressure desired and fuel rail pressure are the same. So the first thing I want to do, I hope I don't lose this data when I shut the key off. I want to watch my actual pressure. It's 1114 psi and holding 1107. So that is not dropping, just like Danner said. Just looking at our fuel control pressure and fuel control valve. That's our high pressure pump. This is the fuel volume control valve percentage. That's showing me the duty cycle percentage. Downstream O2, I'm interested in, what that's looking like here as we go. No errors in the injectors themselves electrically. My long term is 3% and my short term is about 11%. And this is a constant misfire. I'm disappointed that I can't show you the injector balance test one. I might be missing it. There's a lot of bidirectional controls in here for sure, but I don't see the one that Danner was talking about. Let's do the misfire test just to see what it shows. Yeah, acceleration value of the cylinders. That's a really cool test. Acceleration value of 1 and 4 you can see are positive numbers. Acceleration value of 2 and 3 are minus. All right, so I switched to the Snap-on. I just want to see if this gives me the ability to do this injector balance that Danner was talking about. There it is, relative injector flow test. The engine automatically starts once the test is completed and the results are calculated and displayed as flow times in milliseconds. That's pretty freaking awesome, love it. Automated test. I've often had that question from my community is, what are we gonna do with GDI systems and how are we gonna do injector balance testing? It's totally different than old school. And as you can see, it's automated on this car. It's pretty awesome. The engine will begin cranking. I'm not doing anything here, okay? It's giving me low battery. It says need charge. Oh, I'm just gonna let it go. It should be 10 seconds and it should stop cranking. Or it's gonna keep cranking. It's still cranking it. Should I press OK? Holy crap.
Is that like bad for it?
It's still cranking. It's still cranking.
Did it shut the injectors off?
I should have just let it go. I didn't let it crank long. I aborted it. When I hit OK, I hit abort. We're at 12.2 now. I'm gonna start this back up. We're gonna let this battery charge up a little bit. We're gonna run that test again.
How did it disable it from starting?
Well, the computer's in control of everything. Yeah. Computer's in control of spark, computer's in control of fuel. So in this case, what the computer's doing is we need to crank it because we need the high pressure pump to build to a pressure that works with the GDI system, okay? So you need the camshaft to be turning to have the high pressure pump, remember the part we changed, the pump, to do its thing, and then it uses the flow control valve, the solenoid, to bring the pressure where it wants it to be. Then what it does is it disables spark on the whole engine while you're cranking it. And as it's spraying the fuel injectors and it's looking at pressure drops of each injector as it's energizing them. That's what it does. I'm gonna let this just kind of build my voltage up on the battery for a minute. It didn't like the beginning pressures or the beginning battery voltage. This is not the same problem in my opinion. All right, I'm doing the test. Key is on, pressing continue. Damn it, it's not letting me do it. We're gonna have to revisit this test after we run it for a little bit. So we're gonna be doing that for our ignition testing up front. So let's go up front and do some ignition tests, and we'll redo this balance test later, okay? So 3-pin coils, just get some scope readings on that to start with. All right, battery ground with this one. We'll start with the number 4, which we know is firing properly. Battery voltage on that wire. Steady ground on that wire. Should be a pulse square wave on this one, and it is. And we're gonna take our time base, we'll go just a little bit more. All right, we'll go with that for now. Compare that to this one. Battery voltage. Constant ground. Actually, let me pull up the digital numbers for you. And then there's my square wave. That should be firing. That's the number 3. So we have control. Let's go to the number 2 control wire. That's there too. Those are good. Battery voltage is good. All right, so the driver being in the computer or in the coil, I'm probably gonna have a hard time hooking up my secondary probe to that, but I'm gonna try it. Just interested in what my secondary looks like. We'll start with a known good cylinder. Never wanna go to a bad one. Pretty tough image to get. But you can see at times I'm getting a decent picture of it at times. That's the number 4. Let's see what the number 3 is showing me. Oh yeah, it's completely shorted. That's a shorted secondary all day long. Look how high that spike is. And then this one, freaking shorted secondary all freaking day long. That's not what we want to see. That's not what we want to see. Right, that's 2. That's 3. This is a secondary problem. Go to the number 4. That's what we want to see. Brand new parts. You know, at this point, we could swap coils around. I want to get an amperage measurement now before we play any further. Bad new parts. That's what this looks like, dude. Right? I've never seen it this bad ever. We're gonna see it. I think we're gonna see it on this amperage pattern. I shut it off because, you know, we're just dumping fuel at that cat with this Misfire. Yeah, you can smell the raw fuel, just like my brother said. I wanted to grab a centralized location, but I guess to save time, we'll just break out the sack and do it this way. All right, so if you guys want a little bit of operation on this 3-pin coil design, you need to sit in on some of my classes, man. Fundamentals. And you need to understand that primary ignition voltage, the negative side of the coil, cannot be viewed on this design. The only thing we had was a power, a ground, and a control signal, a trigger signal. The transistor lives in the coil itself. So to get an amperage pattern, I can go on the power or the ground to get it. We'll just compare the number 2 to the number 1 or the number 4, whichever one I can open up the easiest here. We'll just go on the power feed wire, I believe is that one. Using a inductive amp clamp. Now we'll start with the bad one. We're gonna, based on that real high spike, I think we're gonna see what I wanna see in this primary. You know, I might not, because a real high firing line, which is what we saw, is an open secondary. Maybe they did something wrong when they bolted this up. We could have a bad plug. We could have a boot that's not making contact. Maybe they put it together without the spring inside. Like operator error? I don't know. Starting it up. We might not see it in the primary is what I'm saying. Can't see all faults in a primary waveform. Yeah, that doesn't look bad. It doesn't look bad. I have some, you know, maybe you could say no turn-on oscillations, but that's the bad coil. Let's compare that to the number one. That's one of the bad coils, I should say. Yeah, they look identical. So it's not I'm not gonna check the number 3. It's not a shorted coil. I'm not sure why I thought shorted coil. I was trying to justify that thought process, and some of you already know, and you're like, what are you talking about, Danner? That's not a symptom of a shorted coil. A real high firing line is a symptom of an open in the secondary, not a problem in the primary. And I just, I don't know, sometimes I'm dumb. All right, enough fancy shit. Enough fancy talk. Enough fancy stuff. Let's go old school now. No, we're gonna do some visual inspections. Maybe before we go any further, just so you guys can see that balance test. Here's the thing, right? That test, the injector balance test, I spent time on it because it's really important. And it's really important that people understand how to do injector balance testing with a GDI system. I guess the answer is we already have it. You push some buttons on a screen and it says pass or fail. So my brother did it and it passed. So we're gonna move away from that and let's fix this car. I think they did something wrong. The spring is there. Let's see what kind of spark this produces. We'll drop it down to 20. Should I touch it? I'm going to. Why am I not getting shocked, Caleb?
I don't know, you're built different.
It's shaking so bad. Can you get that? I don't know that I can isolate that without. Is that better?
Yeah, I got it.
That's a nice gap. So we're talking a plug issue here. Bad plug again? Are we here again? You remember the last one we did? You don't remember the Durango with the bad plug?
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna pull the spark plug out. Might have to pull this wiper cowl off. No. I need to get a smaller extension. No. Damn it. No. What a pain in the butt these plugs are. Well, in particular with this wiper cowl in the way. Ford Motor Company, those are the correct plug. Well, I mean, at least it's a Ford plug. I hate to do this. It's gonna be really noisy. If I put this plug in here to see if it sparks, and it's not a good test because it's outside of the combustion chamber. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna swap plugs for cylinders 1 and 2. Well, I mean, we could try this test. I just don't think this is a valid test because you can have a spark plug that fires outside in a non-compression environment and will show spark here, but once you put it in compression in the cylinder, it may not. So I've seen that before, and I just don't think that this is a good test at all. Plug needs to be grounded. This is going to be noisy with that cylinder open, okay? It's going to be real noisy. Just an FYI for you. We're going to focus right there on that spark plug, and I don't want to run this long.
What do I want
right
to see?
That gap. We want to see spark in that gap. The other thing too, safety here, guys. We have an open cylinder here, and we have fuel that's spraying in the combustion chamber still. So we're gonna have some fuel vapors coming out of here. And doing this test, you know, we're outside, I'm okay with it. Even if it would give us a quick fireball, you need to be careful when you're doing stuff like this. I'm trying to prove this bad spark plug to you guys, okay? I don't endorse this. I would think it would be best. I mean, I could even stuff a rag in there just for a little bit safer method, if you want to call it. Well, no rag. I'm just doing it. Yeah, there's spark there.
I saw it.
Yeah. Again, it's not a good test. So I'm gonna swap plugs. And that's gonna be really the one that's gonna show us. I'm pretty sure that this is a plug issue, not a coil issue, because I saw the coil jumping pretty far. And I'm just focused on the number 2. It is the number 2 and the number 3 that's giving us an issue. We should probably verify plug gaps too. And the high firing line that I saw was an open secondary. I could have misinterpreted it. Oh, what is that? Why does it look like that? That's number 1.
It's like black.
Yeah, I didn't expect that. That was one of the ones that was firing. That's opposite of what I expected to see. I mean, that one's got some heavy soot on it. Like when you see it's black like that, that's like a rich running condition. I'm just trying to think of what would make, with a 2-cylinder misfire, well, we are adding 15+% fuel when we shouldn't be. So yeah, 1 in 4 would be running a little bit rich from that condition. That is, we could make that argument. Swapping this plug. All right, number 1, number 2 coil. Is it possible that I'm misinterpreting this and maybe they didn't get the boot down onto the plug? The way I had to bend that to get it in there? That's a possibility, that it was never making contact with the plug. So if we only have a 1-cylinder misfire now, then we're gonna lean in that direction. So we could just do an unplug each coil test. Is that shaking less? Nah, not really, huh? See what the power balance test shows us. I haven't liked these in the past. I've felt that they were pretty inaccurate, but yeah, cylinder 2 and 4 are now good. And 1 and 3, yep, it moved with the plug. So if I unplug cylinder 2 right now, this engine's gonna stall. If I unplug cylinder 1, we're not gonna see any difference. I know we didn't do this before, but that's what these numbers are showing me. I'm low on 1, I'm low on 3, I'm good on 4, I'm good on 2. Although number 1's better than number 3. Well, I'm gonna unplug number 1. Oh, it's firing. Number 1's firing. Number 2 is firing. Right, we got that. When we see that here in the graph, number 1, number 3 is real bad. It's very possible that this boot just was not installed properly. Here's number 3. There's gonna be no change here. No change when I unplug it. Yeah, and here's number 4. All right, so the spark plug test I did, not bad. It did show a pass on that. Surprised that I saw that. Definitely want to keep in mind what I said is that the plugs can fire normally in a atmospheric environment, and then when you put them under compression, they do not. So it's not a great test, even though it passed that test. Swap the plugs, and now number 2 is firing. Let's see if, yep, this was never put on the plug. just going by feel, this coil is not sitting on the spark plug. Neither was that one, and I missed it. It's not sitting on the plug. And there's no way that I can show you that. I'm just telling you by feel that that coil was not sitting on the plug. Let's see if I can get it on there. It was sitting next to it. I'm pretty confident. And that's gonna burn up those coils bad. So that should be now. It's like spring loaded. And they probably put them in thinking that last kind of spring loaded part was not normal. And so they set it next to the plug. I might be off on this one, let's see. They did right in changing the parts that they did, but it was improper installation. And that would give me a high secondary KV, exactly what I saw. I'm shocked that these coils survived that for that long of a period of time. Fire in the hole. Misfire should be gone. Initially, it might still be there. Let's see. No, we still have it. Number 3 is still missing. I should check that coil. That coil might have burned up. No, we were still producing spark though. Speculating as I'm going here. Maybe I didn't make good contact either. My only regret is I didn't do this cylinder drop test before. We were using the scan tool to show us. It was definitely cylinders 2 and 3. Okay, now it's on. Let's try that. That feels better than what I just did. Starting it again. That sounds better. Unreal. There's your power balance. Incorrect coil installation. Was not a bad plug, was not bad parts. These coils were not installed properly. Our misfire is gone. See our power balance line? They're all even. And the answer to why the number 1 spark plug was so sooty was exactly that. A 2-cylinder misfire. You're dumping oxygen in the exhaust. Yes, you're also dumping raw fuel, and that does have an effect on how the sensor reads. But remember, oxygen sensors react to oxygen. And the interpretation of a dead misfire is you're getting oxygen and fuel in the exhaust, but that oxygen drives that O2 lean, and then the computer adds fuel. Remember what my brother said? He saw 14% fuel trims. We saw the same, very close to that. So 1 and 4 were firing, 2 and 3 were not. And so 1 and 4 are gonna end up getting extra fuel. And that's why 1 was black. 2 was clear. Why? There was never combustion taking place in that cylinder. So surprising that it wasn't soaking wet with fuel. And I believe the answer to that is this is a pretty smart system. The injectors were being disabled during that misfire, at least most of the time. Our miss is gone. Say what you just said.
Wow, that was a roller coaster.
I didn't mean to make it a roller coaster, and I know I did for you guys too. And you know, sometimes it's hard to walk through a problem like this while I'm trying to problem solve in my head and try to be clear about what I'm talking about. And I know I did take you guys on a roller coaster. But this is really about knowing your fundamentals, knowing that what we saw, those high KVs say open secondary. I misspoke when I said shorted coil. It was shorted in a sense that it was never firing the plug, shorted outside the cylinder, but it was open. It was open because there's a huge air gap and all that energy builds up in the coil and field collapses, you get a real big spike, no release. Very damaging to the coil. Surprising those coils didn't cook, but then, you know, we focused on that. We focused on open secondary, and it's either the coil or the plug, and that's where we were. And we swapped plugs, and it was weird when we swapped the plugs how our misfire went away on number 1 and number 2. I expected the Misfire to move to the number 1, it didn't. And yeah, roller coaster a little bit. Let's show the after KV before we drive it. This is a good lesson too for the customer in really doing your own work would be one lesson. The second one would be that this ignition problem used to be an intermittent miss that became a constant miss when they were done. This has nothing to do with the previous work that was done. Zero, nothing. Even though you came back with a misfire, Mr. or Mrs. Customer, this has nothing to do with it. And so video evidence here, the time spent for the technician to walk through this, he may have used some different techniques and different steps. Could have been quicker through it. We're teaching, got to remember that. You know, we could have come under the hood and started unplugging coils and figure out, okay, it's cylinders 2 and 3, and did the test we did on the scanner and know right away it's not a fuel issue, attack the ignition system and maybe found the answer quickly. Even so, that technician should be paid for his time. This is not a comeback. This is not a comeback. We have video evidence to prove it. Watch my part 1 and part 2 videos on this car right here on YouTube. Gas direct injection system with stuck open fuel injectors. It is back with an ignition problem, and that ignition problem was even worse after the ignition components were replaced because they were not replaced properly. The technician should get paid again. The garage should get paid again. We don't work for free. And this is not ripping off the customer. It's getting paid for your knowledge. I make no apologies for that. My power balance looks great. By the way, Ford got a lot better with this power balance test. I used to hate it. It's really awesome now. Let's go back to my lab scope. Change this. Well, we'll use the ignition probe this time. Some of you probably noticed I was not using the ignition probe. That's just simply a scaling. The signals aren't going to look much different than what we had. Upside down, if anything. Invert that. It actually is picking that up a little bit better on the KV scale. Let's go back to what we had before. I was just using my my regular test lead, and I just adjusted my scales. That's kind of what you guys were seeing before. That's cylinder 4. This is going to be cylinder 3. Getting some mistriggering on here at times, but you can see like there, that's pretty decent pattern. Right there too, looks good. Cylinder 1, I always had trouble. I had trouble getting a picture from. Good. Those very high KVs that were on the screen are gone. You know, I'm glad I did that test because I forgot to lock these, Caleb. Those were still unlocked. Somebody probably caught that. Much better KV test. Open secondaries. Tons of lessons on ignition systems, guys, that I have right here on YouTube and on my website, ScannerDanner.com. I am an instructor at a technical college. I've been doing it for 20 years. I have 28 years in the field. And right now on my website, we have close to 500 videos with maybe 300 of them being classroom environment lectures where I'm teaching my class at Rosedale Technical College. And guys, if you want to learn your fundamentals, there's no better place and there's no cheaper place to do it than on my website, ScannerDanner.com. I charge $11 a month, $11 a month, or $132 a year to give you access to 500 hours of training. You can't take one single weekend training class for $132. I have the information. If you're hungry, I can feed you. Okay, let's go for a test drive. We'll be done with this one. Let's do fuel and O2 data. I'm most interested right now in what my fuel trims look like. Yeah, short term is minus 16%, and whereas my long term is 3.1. So I definitely don't like that high of a number. We need to wipe out this memory. The fuel trim cells can be weighted differently. We also have soot and deposits maybe on the downstream O2, because you can see here that they're showing rear O2 fuel trim control. And so we definitely want to drive this at this higher RPM. Those numbers look great. At idle, they did not. I didn't like the minus for sure. That's much better. We're at +7, +5, +4. Okay, we're gonna wanna clear these learned numbers, and we're gonna clear these codes too. That was pending after I cleared them. Functional test, special functions. Let's see, what can I do? Can I do the reset keep alive memory? That's what I want. Good. And then really this is gonna be about the test drive to make sure things feel good. And if we have time after the test drive, I'll finish with that injector balance test just for you guys. Yeah. Feels good, son. I love troubleshooting, man. I hope that came off today in the video. I really genuinely love my job. You know, fortunately this is one that we were able to finish up. Didn't have to wait for parts. This thing runs great. It's dinging because Caleb doesn't have his seatbelt on, but I'm just grateful to be able to do this. I've always enjoyed the chase of troubleshooting, and I hope that portrayed itself on camera. Sometimes it doesn't, right, son? Sometimes it's like I'm dropping F-bombs left and right, and like this, you know, it gets that way, but it's such a rewarding field. I love this field so much for this. When you're on your own and you have that car that's running horrible, and when you're done, it's running perfect, there is no better feeling than, you know, just kind of, I don't know, hitting the bullseye like on one throw, you know? You were right in your call. You know what? If you freaking buckle your seatbelt, we wouldn't have to keep hearing that. It just feels good to be correct in your diagnosis. You're analyzing data, you're gathering information, you're making hypotheses, and then you're proving those hypotheses in your testing methods, and you're right in the end. The car's running perfect. You don't need your boss who may not be a nice guy to tell you good job. You don't need the people you work with. You suck, Caleb, you know that? You don't need the people you work with to, you know, praise you. Let your work do the praising for you. You don't even need to speak. And if you're right and you can get this stuff each time, you'll make a name for yourself and the money will come. Car runs beautiful. Danner's gonna be happy. Functional tests, special functions, relative injector flow, ignition off, ignition on, pressing continue. I'm not hitting anything, it's gonna do it on its own. I'm not hitting the key. It still says low battery. I'm at 13 volts. So it's looking at the cranking. It's not gonna let me do the test. Well, there was your relative injector flow test. Can't do it when your battery's weak. Pretty cool stuff, man. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. And we just are grateful for our community. We're grateful for each of you. We wish each and every one of you good providence for today. We'll see you next time. Let's go tell Danner the good news. This song, we're gonna get demonetized for Shake That Booty. Yeah. Car's fixed.
It's fixed.
They put the coils in, 2 and 3, not on the plugs. They were next to the plugs.
Oh, yeah.
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 And I even did it once myself, trying to put number 3 back in.
I had that problem trying to put it together the first time because the holes are like weird and at an angle.
Yep.
I mean,
Bleep.
bleep.
It runs perfect. I cleared the codes, cleared the trims, cleared the memory, took it for a drive. It runs perfect.
Good.
It probably, just like you felt, that was the right call. What you felt, it was probably a coil or
I
plug.
never changed it. We just cleaned the plug. Actually, they were gas soaked, so they were already clean. We just threw them back in. Okay.
So we got a great, it was perfect for,
Yeah.
it was a great video.
Good. Do you want to figure out a cam sensor on a?
We're out of battery life. With new camera, we only got one battery. So next
You're not
time.
going on YouTube
on,
today.
Next time. So I just wanted to plug my son and his music at our church. It's the Source Church Pittsburgh. We're in West Mifflin, and you guys should come visit us or hear us online. Caleb is the worship leader. And this song that he did, the second verse, really hit the feels for me. It says, Lord, I confess that I've been the prodigal. I'm made for your house, but I walked my own roads. And I was at the gym today listening to my son worship the Lord, and I'm like doing some curls, and that line comes up, and I'm like, I started weeping on the bench. That wasn't good, but anyway. So I'll plug that video in here, you guys. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. This is what Caleb does when he's not behind the camera and he's not editing for me.